Peter McCabe, a.k.a. Corporal Donald Hoobler, in conjunction with Ross Owen and Band of Brothers Where Are They Now.blogspot.com. Welcome, Peter. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Nice to be here. Thanks.
Now, let's talk about the audition process. We've heard from everybody else about how arduous it was and how they went in and read for like 5 different people, and then somebody said, well, what he really looks like is this other guy, and they never read for that person. They just threw him into it. Same thing with you?
I read for, as I recall, I think I did one first rehearsal, which I can't remember what I read for there. I have no idea. But then the main one for me was I read for portrayed.
Oh, wow.
There's some little scene about cigarettes sitting on an airfield, if I remember. Mm-hmm. But I don't think, I never really thought that I kind of never thought that I was up for portrayed for some reason. I don't know whether that was just in my head. But I read for that in a hotel just off Green Park. And I remember Tony was there, and Tony Toe and Tom Hanks, but a whole load of other people. There's about 30 people in that room. So it's kind of the worst interview I've ever had. The worst audition I've ever had.
That's not the first time we've heard that either. Where people come walking out going, wow, I really tanked that.
Well, actually, to be honest, I felt good about it. Because Tom Hanks actually said something at the end of it, which I kind of can't repeat. But he basically swore at me to get out in a way that made me feel like I'd done a good job. So, if that makes any sense.
Well, yeah, it kind of does, because he seems to me like he'd be the kind of guy that he would automatically make friends with who he liked.
Yeah, he's a very generous person. Very generous, and I was an actor, I suppose. I remember if I remember properly, we were actually I was wandering around in Green Park itself, which is a big park in London, just opposite the hotel, and I was aware of, loads of other young men around my age wandering around that park, whispering to themselves under the trees, basically, or going through their lines. And then we obviously went over to the hotel and waited and walked in, and like I say, there were it felt like about 20 or 30 people. And normally at an audition you might have 2 or 3. So it was almost like doing a bit of theatre. But so it was terrifying in that respect, but quite exhilarating as well, really. And then after that, I think there was one more meeting where I was brought back, and that was a much, much smaller meeting, and that was with Tony Toe and someone else. I don't remember Tony really, and that was when we just talked a little bit more closely about the characters, and I think about Hoobler already at that stage. But I think I saw a picture of Hoobler at that stage, and if you've seen the photos of Hoobler on like Wikipedia and so on, the first thing that struck me about Hoobler is his ears.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. And I have, the same ears, so maybe that's why I got the part. Who knows? So,
I think you probably got the part too because of the mirth and the smile. Because the one picture that is on Wiki, he's got that grin. And, and I have to admit, you got the same one.
Maybe that's true. I mean, the one thing that I always kept in mind about Hoobler as a character really was something that David Webster, that was played by Ian Bailey, what he said about Hoobler was that he probably was the only person he'd ever met that totally loved warfare. He loved war, basically, and I don't think not in some kind of psychotic sense, not in a horrible, violent sense. That he was just in awe of it. There's some quote. I don't remember exactly when it was. I think it was somewhere in in northern France. There's a shot of him actually, sitting. There's a comment about him actually sitting on the front of a tank or something like that, and watching the war in the distance, while everyone else was sleeping, and just sitting up all night watching it take place. Just fascinated by it.
Well, it's great that you bring that up, because we have one of our listeners, one of the band of sisters, the girls that come in our chat room every time that we do an interview. she actually has a question regarding this. Jenny, are you there?
Yep, I'm here. My question is that, as you said, Webster had said that Hoobler loved war, and did you know that's going into production, and how did you incorporate that into your portrayal of him?
Yeah, I did know that going in. I mean, there wasn't an awful lot in the main book that Easy Company's based, the film's based, the series is based on. There isn't that an awful lot of reference to Hoobler, but in Webster's books there's more. They were quite sort of close. And as you say, I went into it with the sense of someone who was, I mean, he was so young. These are terribly young men. And I just think he was someone who was not, like I say, not in awe of glorifying the death and the horror of it, but just in awe of the, I don't know, how do you put it there is something extraordinary about war, that it fascinates young men, and that is beyond just violence and hurting people. And it goes back to the fascination with guns, or just the whole fascination of the machinery. But just the sheer, there's something horribly beautiful about it, I think, and that was always the way I felt that the Hoobler should be. I mean, obviously, there's only so many opportunities you get to show that. But yeah, just someone who was happy to be there, bizarrely, because who would want to be there, basically? Who would want to be in that situation?
To answer your question, Jenny?
Yep, it does.
All right, fantastic, darling. We'll see you back in the chat room.
Thanks,
yeah, Jane.
All right. She told me what she wanted to ask earlier, and I'm like, my God, that's a great question.
Yeah.
Because, it wasn't very well known, unless, of course, you've read everything out there about the Band of Brothers and all the different books written about Easy Company. So, that was a very good job. Since we know Hoobler died, how much of what we saw was
accurate?
How much? Well, not just accuracy, but how much of it was you just your portrayal? How much was acting, and how much was him personified? Obviously, he was addressed more in Webster's books, but was it enough to give you some decent research, or did you talk to other friends and family members?
I wasn't. I think some of the people had more access to friends and family. I didn't have a lot of access to that at all. What I did speak with, obviously, with the guys that were there. As I understand it, in reality, I think that the events didn't really sort of go along the same chronological order that you see in the TV series. As often happens, there is an adjustment of actual when it happened or how it happened, for just to make sense of something in a dramatic sense. As I understand it, Hoobler died much more slowly than as shown in episode 7. I think it took place overnight rather than over the course of a matter of minutes, and there was nothing they could do. Basically, they were pinned down. I think they were about to go into battle the next day. The accident had happened, and there was no way that anybody could go off and get help and to get in the kind of medical attention that he needed. He couldn't be taken back. The soldiers were pinned down. It was a nightmare of a situation. And Dr. Rowe, the medic, had this horribly frustrating situation where he basically couldn't. They couldn't stem the flow of blood. So it happened a lot slower. So, when we did it's really more about, it's acting the emotional reality of that, but compressing it into a tiny space of time, if that makes any sense. The horrible futility and sort of stupidity of this death compared with, because of why it happened. But really, I think it took a lot longer. And also, as I understand it, I mean, I'm not a historian, but I think that he got the Luger. I always remember thinking and knowing at the time, or at least during filming, that he may well have got the Luger as early as Normandy and had it all that time. So, wow. There are other debates about when he got it, and some people even debate whether it's a Luger. So, these things get, I think inevitably, they get twisted and changed with time. But the same reality exists. He shot himself and died as a result of it. So.
From what I read on the wiki was that he was the gun was snagged on some barbed wire and went off while he was carrying it. And
okay.
And I was I was kind of curious because
I'm not sure how that works though mechanically.
Right. And that's what we were thinking. We're like, well, I know that if he was like crawling over or under something and heading into war, and if he had the thing jammed in his pants, that may or may not have been, because the barbed wire back then isn't the same barbed wire that we use for keeping cattle in. They have a much longer barb, so if it went in and it could hook the trigger, obviously, but. From what the portrayal was and from what I've been able to pick up in the books and whatnot, it was, you're prepping for war. Where was the barbed wire at? Why would you have that in your camp?
Well, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not aware of that. I mean, I think I know that there's the story of, like I say, there was, I heard talk at the time that he may have had, I think it might have been Malarkey or somebody said that, but, everyone has their own little stories. Things get confused. That he may have had, the gun way before then, and that he was, he just constantly played with it.
Right.
He was always toying with it. It was his fascination. And like I say, he's a very young man, and he let's face it, at this time this man has been through some serious fighting, some extraordinary events. So there's a certain amount of a sense of being untouchable, I would have thought, and particularly in Hoobler's case, the kind of man that Hoobler was, I don't think he would ever have imagined his own death or foreseen himself being injured. He's that kind of person. I don't think he, from what I've read, I don't get the impression that he would have spent time worrying about things like that. So, to me, the idea that he was playing with it always seemed like the most likely scenario. But it could be wrong. We don't know. Either way, it's a tragedy regardless. Like I say, the fact that he probably died not in a matter of minutes, but in a matter in over 12 hours, that doesn't make any difference. In the fact that it is portrayed slightly differently in the story, it doesn't really, for me, make any difference. There's still there must have been that 12 hours of urgency, while people are trying to do something about it and not being able to do anything about it. It's just it's a dramatic thing, I suppose. But I mean, there are other stories. I remember we were on set one day. I can't remember exactly which episode this is. It may have been it may have been to do with the landings in Holland, which was the Market Garden stuff.
Right.
And one of the veterans was actually on set, and he's there with us. So suddenly we're all acting, and there's this man who was there. He actually was there at this moment, and he was there standing talking about a particular scene where someone had been injured, and one of the other guys went back, picked him up, and carried him, so far from A to B, with an extraordinary bit of heroics as often happened. And the veteran standing there going, it wasn't like that. No, he wasn't there, he was over there. And I didn't run from there to there, I ran from here to here. And we got the actual story as he put it. But in real terms, it made no difference. And he certainly wasn't sitting there going, I'm unhappy with the inaccuracy of the specific detail. Because at the end of the day, he did still run, with this man on his back through enemy fire, in the middle of a battle. So these things get... in the fog of war, as they say, I'm sure these things get twisted and confused slightly. But I certainly don't think there was any, with Hoobler's death, I don't think there was any messing with history. Should we put it that way?
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and to like I was saying, to speculate would be doing a disservice to the people who were there. It's like we can guess all we want, but we'd have no idea.
Well, I think at the end of the day, it was just basically it was 100 times worse than anything we could possibly imagine.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's.
Did you find it hard to do the American accent?
I didn't really. It's not something I never believed I could do it. And even to this day, I still think I didn't. So, I've had people, Americans themselves who've come up to me. I've met them through and said, you've done it really well. It sounds fantastic. And there's always part of me that thinks, they're lying. I think there's one particular word that I said in the episode 7, sack of potatoes. That was it. To this day, I'm still convinced I said that wrong. So,
well, I didn't catch any slippage. And the funny part about it was
lack of confidence there.
Yeah.
But it's.
I was going to say that the funny part about this is I didn't think there was any
really?
English guys in this until I started, catching all these interviews. And I'm like, my God, 90% of the cast wasn't American to begin with.
I think English people are. English people. We have so many. We have access to so many American dramas over here. There's there's so many high quality things that come over. So I suppose from an early age you're much more aware of those sounds. So I suppose it makes it easier for us to flip slightly. So I didn't find it a massive leap to do the American accent. But there's always a sense of, I think there's always a sense of lingering doubt. I'm sure somebody from his town would have had issues with my accent.
All right, well, let's move on past the accents. Boot camp. Were you a part of boot camp?
I was indeed, yeah.
How did you find Captain Dale Dye and his warmth?
Fascinating, because I've just been, prior to coming on tonight, I've just been thinking about that, and it was quite an experience, boot camp, more than I expected. I think Dale is extremely rigorous and very he knows what he's doing, and he knows exactly what he's trying to do with the actors. I was just reading a few of his quotes on the subject. He's basically slagging actors off, and saying we're all, but not that he means that. But how can I explain boot camp? That it was 2 weeks, and really, it's nothing, and it in any ways it should seem very trivial. And I'm generally quite a cynical person, and don't sort of go with the the whole get into the live the part thing. I just I believe in sort of acting less than being it. But you got sucked in rapidly, and the way they organised it, and I think there's a lot of psychology in it in terms of literally giving certain people the right rank. I got promoted halfway through boot camp, and I was proud as punch. I thought I'd really achieved something.
Is that when they started everybody as a private, and then they moved them into their proper position?
Some were already a notch up, but I think I went up to a corporal. And I went up to a corporal after running things like, I think we ran a 3-mile run, which we were all very unfit, so we felt exhausted. It was a lot longer than the 1-mile run we'd done, but they tell you it was a 5-mile run, and you'd sort of go with it. It was basically, they made it tough, as tough as they could do without, going crazy and damaging us in such a short period of time. But the big thing was how they managed to build a sense of camaraderie amongst the group, and that's really what an army does with its soldiers. That's really what Band of Brothers, the phrase, means, isn't it? It's about, as they say again and again and again, you're fighting for the man next to you. You're not fighting for a cause. You're not fighting for anything. You're fighting for your friends. That's what makes you keep going. That's what makes you charge as a machine gun post, not because of the greater war, but because your friends are being shot at. It's that kind of thing. And they really did manage to build that sense of camaraderie quite quickly, and the sense of responsibility. At the end of it, we had to do this. They built us up to doing a which is like a test jump out of an aeroplane, parachute jump, not an actual parachute jump, because the insurance wouldn't cover it. But you jump out of something like it's like a 80-foot drop, and you've just got a rope attached to you which slows you down
Wow.
the same way you would if you were doing a parachute jump. And I am terrified of heights, and I would, under any normal circumstance, there's no way that I could do something like that without, really clinging to the side, thinking about it hard, and then maybe doing it. And I just jumped, and without couldn't stop myself. I had to leap, basically, and there was a real sense of, I have to do this because everyone else has done it, and if I don't do it, I'm a total failure. So it's quite an interesting experience, really.
Well, and plus, once you get to that point where you have to do it, worrying about whether or not you're going to hate it is moot. You get
Exactly.
you get to the edge of the airplane, you're like, well, I got to, and off you go.
There you go.
Yeah, and but in normal daily life, I'm quite happy to tell everyone shove off and no, I'm not jumping. But that day I was jumping, So that was quite interesting, really, and they just managed to get that sense of, I mean, my wife, I'm actually still with the same person I was with then. She mentioned that I wrote her 5 letters home during it because they gave us a piece of paper and a pencil, and we were allowed to write a letter home, as you would have had in the time. And I don't know what I wrote in them, but she seemed quite moved by the letters. So, they got us into the frame of mind, I suppose. It was interesting.
Now, did she keep those letters?
I believe so. I don't know where they are though, and I haven't seen them since.
Now, see, I would like to see those posted at some point in time on the web.
Yeah, right. Okay.
I would love to see what you wrote to your wife because, well, it's
they were
interesting. They were
tinged with sadness and longing. So.
Well, and see, that's the thing that I'm talking about. There's such a difference. There was a comedian talking about this. God, it must have been 5 or 6 years ago. He was talking about the difference between the letters written home to the girlfriends and loved ones, girlfriends and wives of soldiers during the Civil War versus the ones written home from the Vietnam War. And the ones from the Civil War always start, "My dearest Margaret, you are so beautiful, and I miss you with the longing of my heart." Yeah, and you get over into the Vietnam War, and it's like, "Yo, baby, it's hot as hell up in this motherfucker." And the difference in language, So I would like to see.
I've heard a few from the Civil War, and they're quite poetic, aren't they? They're quite extraordinary.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I think probably in the 1940s, I think when that poetry probably was still there to some extent. Not for everyone, let's face it, But, things have changed.
And you go back and look at, I looked at my uncle's discharge papers. He was over in the European theater during World War II. And, even his handwriting was really good compared to the next generation, which would have been my cousins and myself, which, you can't hardly read any of our handwriting because it's just too
exactly. Yeah, that's a totally different subject, isn't it? Against my children, it's typing and that's it.
Right.
That's it.
And nowadays they have that text speak where it's no vowels and very little sense is made with this crap. Now, a few days ago on Twitter, Jimmy Matteo posted a picture of his boots that he found while cleaning out his house because he's fixing to move to Santa Monica. Do you still have your boots?
Yeah, I think they are still in a box somewhere. Yeah, in my garage, but I haven't seen them for years and years and years. But yeah, I think they probably are still there.
I don't suppose you wear a size 13, do you?
I think I've still got my. I'm sure I've still got the dog tags as well. I have a feeling they're still somewhere. Yeah, they're not the kind of thing you. I don't have size 13s. No, I'll tell you.
I was going to say, well, I'd love to have your boots. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
Now, did you find them hard to break in? I mean, did you walk around in the water with them? Did you get them wet and then wear them dry like you were told to do or like you were supposed to do?
I mean, they were agony, really. I mean, the one thing that I always found most astonishing, really, for me, was how difficult it was to actually run in that gear. Never mind fight. I wasn't even carrying a machine gun. Some of the guys, the ones that were carrying the sort of the big stuff. I don't know how soldiers do it. I actually don't understand how regular soldiers they're kind of carrying 50 kilograms.
Yeah.
50k on their back, and even if you just put the uniform on from World War II, from our stuff, just the uniform, just the boots and the clothes, and then say an M1 rifle. You try running across a field; it's exhausting. And I remember doing in the episode. Tom Hanks directed it. That would be number 5, and we were literally just running across a field every day for about a week.
The Bastogne episode.
No, I think it's Bastogne. It's a different one to that. I can't quite remember the name of the
Crossroads.
The episode. Yes, that's right.
All right. Yeah, the IMDb has it listed as 4. So.
Oh right. Okay. Well, there you go. So I mean, that was exhausting, frankly, and that was literally not carrying any sort of any weapons, any large weapons or whatever. So it's the boots took a long time to get used to, definitely.
Now, you mentioned the dog tags. Did you steal anything else?
Did I steal anything else? Yeah, that's what I want to admit to now. Yeah.
Well, now everybody else
I have a tank in my back garden. Yeah.
Now everybody else has told us, and Nolan Hemmings actually sent us pictures. He literally said, "I got everything in this picture with the exception of my rifle."
Really? What did he have?
His everything: his helmet, his shirt, his jacket, the boots, the pants. He literally put on an overcoat and walked off with everything. He had grenades.
Right. Okay. As long as someone else, I did have a grenade. Yeah, there was a grenade.
Nice.
But I didn't steal it.
Oh.
It was, that was. Weirdly enough, that was actually someone who came to visit me on set who stole it. His name I will not mention. Anyway, but thankfully it wasn't live, so we can get that one.
I would have done the same thing.
Oh yeah, I would have.
Absolutely.
I want a pineapple grenade right now.
Yeah.
When you guys were doing your boot camp exercise and then you did the atomic push-up, you weren't under Kudlitz, were you?
Atomic push-up. What's the atomic push-up?
When you had all you guys in a line.
The centipede.
The centipede push-up?
Oh, right. Under who, sorry?
Under Michael Kudlitz. You didn't have his big feet on you, did you?
No. Thank God. No. Yeah, that was... How is Michael? Have you spoken to him? Have you done that?
Oh, yeah. We
couple times.
We've talked to Michael a couple of times. We talked to him about his new Southland show and the Band of Brothers. And I think one time he just called in.
Yeah.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah, he just calls in to say, hey, what are you doing?
Yeah, excellent. No. Thankfully, I don't think I ever had Michael on my back at any particular point, which is always a relief.
Now, did you find the hardest thing of boot camp, the all-in-one sit-up and the all-in-one push-up?
No, I think the thing I found hardest about boot camp is that just the realization that I would have been a terrible soldier if I'd ever actually had to do it for real. I'm not particularly. I just don't have it in me, really. I mean, I think I was always on that if you were split into two groups where one would attack the other, I would invariably be on the one that got beaten. So it was definitely a certain amount of effort involved in acting later on. I don't know. It's a state of mind that I don't think I would ever. It takes a special kind of person to be a truly good soldier. They're not just crazy people with guns. They're very focused and they know what they're doing. They have great spatial awareness is the best way of putting it, because they have to know what everyone else is doing at long distances. So I found that quite tough actually, because I would have loved to have been a great soldier, but I don't think I would have been. They do something in boot camp where they. You are basically put on watch overnight. So they stick you in a bunch of derelict houses, and there might be 4 or 5 of you in a room, and you have to sit there and you take it in turns to watch for someone coming in or attacking. Yeah, mm-hmm. And then a few of the guys are obviously ex-soldiers and they know what they're doing. Then sneak around and try and take you out. And even that I found really, really disturbing. The idea that you just see some little movement in the distance. But, at 3 o'clock in the morning, I was the kind of person who might fall asleep. And, that's not a good idea for a soldier, really, is it? It requires a certain amount of focus, basically. I mean, if you look at something like in Foy, Bastogne, that area, when they were actually in the snowbound trenches for however months it was. What is it? 6 weeks, couple of months.
Yeah.
With no protective gear and no proper defences and not enough weapons and not enough ammunition, and to just sit there and do that for day after day after day, and then take a huge pummeling in terms of artillery from the other side overnight, and then do it again and again and again. It's extraordinary. It really does beg a belief. And to be able to put up with that and then fight afterwards, there are different species, basically. Extraordinary people. But I think I would have. I'd love to. I think I went into boot camp hoping that I might be one of those people, but now I'm not. Definitely not.
Now, when you were in boot camp, did you get close to any of the other actors or any of the other characters there? Did you obviously? I'm guessing you probably spent some time with Webster.
Yeah. What with Webster? Ian, you mean?
Yeah, Ian.
Yeah. I think I still owe him a copy of National Geographic. If you're listening, Ian, I know that I should have replaced it. No, we got close with a lot of people. I mean, there's a lot of friends with. It was. I don't think I the most person I've seen the most recently would be Dexter Fletcher. Mm-hmm. I spent many happy hours just doing a sort of Peter Cook and Dudley Moore with him in a trench because he was a lot of fun that way. And Doug Allen was a good friend. We were a few people, but none that I don't sort of see people on a regular basis now. Not really. It's a few years ago, I suppose.
Well, yeah. Did you ever get over to America for any of the barbecues that they hold every year?
No, I've never been. No, I never actually turned up for that at all. And they're doing a big jump this year as well, aren't they?
Yeah, actually, they're doing one over in the UK as well.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Jumping for Heroes, put on by Rosso, and he's the brainstorm behind it. And I can't wait. It's going to be an absolute blast. I have a message that one of your band members is missing you. And I'm guessing I don't know if that means he wants you to contact him or what, but he's currently listening. He's on baby duty, so he can't call in. But Ben Kaplan wants to let you know that he's listening. He says hello. And
nice. Yeah, I would love to see you, mate. Yeah, absolutely. How old's the baby?
I don't know.
Pretty young. Like days.
Ben, you can let me know.
Let's talk shenanigans and pranks during boot camp.
How about that?
I know I woke up on set with covered in leaves several times. That was definitely I do like to sleep. So, I definitely woke up finding myself buried. How many times I did pranks on other people, I don't know. Let me think. Probably not many.
You were just randomly sleeping outside and they would bury you with leaves, or they bring bags of leaves in?
Film sets are, it's a long and you spend a lot of time sitting around doing nothing, basically. And I think the best thing to do at that moment is to nod off, really.
Ben's baby's 5 weeks old, by the way.
5 weeks?
Oh, really?
Just a little shaver.
Yeah, congratulations.
Still has that new baby smell.
I was going to say, I thought he was like days.
Yeah, he's just a few. So you didn't like super glue anything or staple things or Neil McDonough said he brought in a whole fifth of whiskey in his canteen.
Really?
Yeah.
He never shared with me. That's
well, apparently he had it. They searched everybody's bags, and if there was
that in boot camp?
Yeah.
Oh, I see. Yeah. No, a few people brought their phones in as well. No, I was a bit of a sort of goody two shoes. Really, I did exactly what I was told. They were sending texts home to their wives. I was writing letters with pencil and paper. No, I didn't.
Did you lick the pencil before you wrote with it, like they do in the old movies?
Yeah.
I got to make this look legit.
Yeah, my dearest darling. Yeah, no, I don't remember getting involved in many in pranks at all, really, at boot camp. No, I think I was too. I don't know. I was kind of taking it quite seriously, really, as my vague memory is. That's probably totally going to be contradicted by other people's.
During filming, how long were you on set? Were you there for like the full year or whatever it took to create this?
No, because I died in episode 7.
Right.
So missed. I can't remember the order of things, but they didn't film. I think they filmed episode 9 or 10 or something up in the middle. So I might have been sort of offset, but still employed, as it were, during that time. But I think it was about 6 months, something like that.
And you were married at the time, or you were just dating the girl?
I was with someone who's since become my wife. Yeah.
How did she take you being gone for 6 months?
Well, I wasn't gone. You know, I was living at home because the whole thing was filmed in North London, a place called Hatfield, which is like an old disused, well, not disused, but an old air base. And they built the sets and stuff on that. So we used to literally just drive from home to work and then drive back. So, you know, I never really went anywhere.
Did you go out with the guys at night during all this?
Yeah, sometimes.
Were you part of that whole Jimmy Matteo fist fight?
No, I wasn't. What was that?
Oh, him.
Hang on, no, I remember that. Hang on, I do remember. Yeah, tell me.
Oh, well, him and McDonough got into a fist fight in Soho after Jimmy accidentally knocked a drink out of a second-story window onto some girl.
What was his reasoning behind that particular scenario?
Well, he said he just used it was sitting on the windowsill, and he turned and his elbow caught it, and he looked out just in time to see this woman get upset and point at him, and he went down to apologize. He actually came back on. He had to do a complete segment on what really happened with Jimmy Matteo versus what everyone else says happened to Jimmy Matteo, and he reiterated all the stories. And that's one of the funniest ones. If you ever can get to the Banded Brothers Where Are They Now.blogspot.com website and check out the second Jimmy Matteo interview.
Explaining what he really did.
What really happened. My God, that was an absolute blast to recut Jimmy's stories, because we went in and Ross went in and cut out all of the guys telling the stories. We played that, and then Jimmy's like, okay, let me tell you what really happened. And then he would start over with the real deal. And from his vantage point, from his point of view, he accidentally knocked the glass off. He went downstairs to try to apologize to the girl. Next thing you know,
it escalated.
Next thing you know, Neil's standing behind him with his bear-like status, and words were exchanged. And before he could stop it, fists were exchanged. And by the time the siren sounded, Matteo was home in bed.
He was already gone.
Nice. That's the perfect way to start trouble and then just disappear.
That's exactly what he did, because Neil's looking for him. He's all over the place. He's calling him. Rouvet was there, and she's like, "What happened to him?" He's like, "I don't know. I saw him take off." So they called his cell phone or called his room, and he answered. He's like, "Where the hell are you?" I said, "I'm home already."
Right. Yeah, they were obviously getting into the Band of Brothers off-duty scenario. I wasn't part of that, no. I refused to be accused of anything at all. But
you weren't even there. You were at home reading your Bible, weren't you?
Absolutely, yeah. No, there was definitely a certain level of machismo when it came to going out. Definitely, yes.
Well, I can guarantee you that same machismo is felt across the land with all new recruits on their first bus pass off the base.
Exactly.
I grew up 15 miles away from Fort Riley, Kansas, and every Friday night you saw a new group of stitchheads wander through Aggieville, picking up on college girls and pretending they knew Taekwondo, because they get that 15 minutes of training on how to disarm somebody with the Taekwondo.
Well, I remember finding myself at a boxing match in East London. Well, it's some big event, not in some little pub or whatever. Sort of wearing a suit, all suited and booted, and smoking a cigar with a bunch of other blokes, and thinking, why am I doing this? Yeah, I don't smoke cigars. I don't wear suits. I don't watch boxing. But there was. I think we sort of got into a bit of a machismo thing. Basically. There are some stories to tell, I'm sure, from Soho, but I'm not telling any of them. I can tell, actually, there's some quite significant stories that I'm definitely not going to tell.
What? You don't have to use names.
That's so mean.
You could just give us some good ideas of what happened.
It's a shame, too, because that's like our favorite part, when the fellas tell the stories.
No, I'm not. No, you just
we've heard from everybody.
You must have done something awful.
Yeah, no kidding. You must have
I didn't do anything.
You awful man. You should be ashamed of yourself. No.
If only. Yeah. Shame doesn't come into it. No, but there was some fun to be had in London at that time, definitely.
What was your favorite scenes to shoot out of the entire 7 episodes that you were in?
I enjoyed doing the work with Mike. When we did all that stuff of trying to find him.
Yeah.
That was great. That was with David Nutter, so that was a real pleasure. I think because that was the most through line of a story that I had for Hoobler. So there was a lot to sort of understand there, and shooting the guy off the back of the horse, I suppose. It's stupid, but it's shooting a guy off the back of a horse. So it was always just that sense, I'm not even sure whether this got in to the. I can't remember how much this got in, but when Hoobler finds his Luger during the Tom Hanks episode where the crossroads, that was probably my favourite because it was probably the oddest. I'd never done anything as big as that scene, and I don't know. As I remember, I don't think it sort of got cut in the way that I remember it from the set. But basically, the way it was to work was there was supposed to be a battle taking place, and I had to run, from body to body to body, going looking for this gun, and then discover it on one of the bodies at the crossroads. They basically, when they do these things, they're amazing people that set up these battlefield things, because they set up explosions that are extraordinarily huge. They've got a small amount of explosives put in a hole in the ground, covered in earth, and when it goes off, it goes off. It looks like a mine exploding. And they'd done this all the way across a field and sort of into a bunch of trees. So there were these primed mortar rounds all the way into the distance, and it was a one-off shot, and they had to get the lighting right. And I remember waiting for 2 or 3 hours till this lighting happened, and then went, okay, let's do it, go. And I started running, and as I started running, I was just aware of these huge explosions in the distance, creeping towards me, bigger and bigger and bigger as I ran. And I thought I'm actually in it. It just felt so exciting. It's every boy's dream, basically, to be in a pretend little war, So that was. And also, there are so many little moments. I mean, when we were looking for Mike in that episode, standing next to a wall and watching it blow up while you're in it, it's just fantastic. It's just very exciting, basically. Those are the sort of boyish, exciting days, really.
Have you seen the whole show?
I have, yeah. I watched it. I think I watched it at the time, and I watched it about 3 or 4 years ago, and I've seen bits since, but I haven't seen the whole thing recently. So I haven't seen. Oh, you mean so I've seen all the stuff beyond my death as well? Yes, I have.
Okay, well, and I just want to know, because that's. Do you have a favorite episode, whether you're in it or not?
I think my episode, but not my episode, the episode I died in. But for what comes after that, because I'm just because of the horror of that. That's when, isn't it? When the massive bombardment takes place.
Right.
Is that?
Yes.
And to me, that was just always. That's the thing that always rings in my ears as being. I to this day, I will always have the utmost respect for those men just for that part of the war. I mean, all the rest of it is still extraordinary. The Normandy landings themselves, which are the landings are covered more in Saving Private Ryan. What the paratroopers had to do was extraordinary as well in Normandy. But I think what the guys on the beaches had to deal with was beyond comprehension, really. And I think it's similarly what they had to deal with in those icy foxholes when they were being bombarded. I don't know how they survived it. I don't know how they coped with it. So that, I think that always amazes me.
Yeah.
So that to me has always been the most poignant part of it. But it's such a subjective thing to actually say I have a person, an opinion about which is the most extraordinary moment and which is the most. Everyone has their own, really. It's I never really I never understand how they managed to continue fighting, frankly. But I suppose you just do. So.
Well, how did you perceive World War II before you got into actually being in World War II?
Well, for me, I think I'm very aware of the fact that I became a lot prouder and more in awe of it after doing that show. There's no doubt about that. Just by reading, just by learning what happened and understanding some of the details of it. I definitely bore my children on the subject more than I think I would have done if I hadn't been in it. Mm-hmm. And not just because I was in it, look at what your dad did, but, look at what they did. We have, I've learned a lot since then about, since doing that program, probably taking an interest that I certainly wasn't taught at schools. Actually, in fact, I learned something the other day, which, just shows you how these things are never properly propagated through cultural consciousness, whatever that is. 3 or 4 days ago, it was the anniversary of a city in England called Hull, which was, as it turned out, was the most bombed city in England during World War II. It suffered the most casualties and it was the most destroyed in terms of, how the area and the size of the city. But it was kept secret. And they literally never referred to Hull in any broadcast or any, any comments about the war at the time. And that persisted on and on. And I had never heard about it as well. And it's only, like you say, it's only a couple of hours away.
Why do you suppose they kept bombing it?
Well, why did they keep bombing it, or why was it kept secret?
Well, both, actually.
Well, they kept bombing it because it's a port.
So that makes sense.
Yeah, but they kept it secret because they just didn't want people to know how bad things were. And that's the nature of war, isn't it? That you don't get the full truth, and it takes years for it to come out. And watching the Pacific recently, which is obviously the thing that's followed on from Band of Brothers, that's a story that's only just starting to be told, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's a surprising story. A lot of people don't know how different things were.
Quite dramatic, yeah. They went through incomprehensible events to some extent. I went out with a girl 20 years ago that was her grandfather was a doctor, but during the war he was a bomber pilot, and he bombed Dresden.
Wow.
And he was, he's obviously one of many thousands, but again, he would never talk about it. And he'd never been up front, face to face with his enemy in that sense. But it was beyond discussion, basically. So, it's a very difficult subject to cover, really. I became much more proud. I think before I was in the program, because I was probably, at that age, I would always be more cynical about, obviously, as you should be, about war and stuff. But when you're confronted with that level of heroism or that level of determination to fight for something that is ultimately right, we're not all perfect. The West isn't perfect, but in that case, the moral argument wasn't a complex one. You just change your position, and you do start to think. You do start to look at the events of those times and think of them differently. So yes, going back to the original question, it did change my my viewpoint slightly on that period in history, definitely.
Do you find yourself more drawn towards the historical things now, even 10 years later? Do you walk down the street and go, oh, look, there's a book about something that I have some knowledge of, and I want more.
Up to a point. I mean, there's a tendency there's an over fascination as well. I think sometimes, particularly in England or Britain, people might get upset with me saying that, but I think there can be an over fascination with the war, and it starts to become you actually, getting some kind of entertainment out of it. So up to a point, but little things like I say, finding out the Hull was this horribly bombed city and no one knows about it. Those sorts of things do ring, very true. Definitely. I mean, you obviously you grew up with my family. The family I grew up with were children in the war, and my memories. I was brought up with my mother. Literally used to hide under the stairs during bombing raids. Well, that was her memory of it. There was no one who fought, so I didn't have that.
Well, I think that's the biggest reason that we don't, that we sort of not idolize it, but we do a lot of hero worshiping of the guys who did that over here, is we've never had that happen on our soil. We have not had an international style ground war in America. And so we don't see the propaganda like you had, whereas they said, we're not going to tell you how bad things are. We're going to hide the fact that Hull keeps being bombed. Whereas over here, we had Pearl Harbor, and, the shit hit the fan. And all of a sudden, everybody's wearing waving the flags, lining the streets. The recruitment offices are filled, and there are people leaving en masse for boot camp because this is what's going to happen. You done messed up. You poked the bear with a stick, and we're coming after you.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know how. I think there's a certain. What's the right word? I don't know what it is. But when you look at countries, when a country has been under a sustained attack, the civilian population has been under sustained attack. It becomes normal. And so, like you say, it's not about flag waving anymore. It's just about survival day to day. And so, ordinary things, people they lose that. There's no loss of determination to fight, but it's all about carrying on, being normal, and doing what you need to do, just to function in that sort of environment.
You're absolutely
right. Which in many ways is what happens when you're sitting in an insane way, when you're sitting in a foxhole in the middle of nowhere, basically trying to find some normality, isn't it? There's a little scene in Band of Brothers where it's a tiny scene, but it's me and somebody else just sitting there making snow cones out of the snow,
Yeah, and your lemon Kool-Aid.
That's
came
right.
In your sea packs, sea rations.
And you're just trying to introduce some sense of, normality.
Which, by the way, that had to have been the second bravest thing those guys ever did. I purchased some of these sea rations way back before MREs came around. When I was in Boy Scouts as a kid, and I took these things with me. Not only were they heavy and bulky, but the taste, my God, that was barely palatable and yet highly nutritious.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Now, did you ever? When you watched Band of Brothers, or when you were filming it, did you ever see yourself as a different character? Did you want to be somebody else besides Hoobler?
No, not at all. I was really pleased to be Hoobler. Yeah. No, not even slightly. I don't know why that is. I'm just more than happy to be. I wasn't. In the other extreme, I wasn't. Psychotically obsessed with being Hoobler, but no, it was always have to be that, to play that part. It just seemed the right role for me. Well, I always felt a weird affinity with him when I saw the photo of him, because I don't know, it was just an odd. In the photo of him, I look like my dad, and I increasingly look like my father as I get older. The photo of Hoobler in his uniform is almost identical, bar the differences in uniform, to a photo of my dad in his RAF uniform from way back when. And the moment I saw it, I just thought, yeah, that's me. That makes sense. So yeah, no, it was fine in that respect. In fact, a couple of years ago, I did the Great North Run, which is a half marathon up in the northeast of England. And they have, there's many thousands of people there, tens of thousands of people, and it's run along a motorway. So they, there's no loos basically. So they have these things. These sort of portable loos they're outdoors. Have you ever seen them?
Oh yeah. Johnny on the spot.
You just sort of huddle into a small space, and there's 10 of you all in little small spaces hiding you, whatever. And there I am, having a pee, and the guy next to me just turns to me and he goes, "Hoobler!" Hoobler. And I'm thinking, yeah, this is not the right time for this conversation. And he goes, "Oh, mate," he goes, "Oh, I'm just saying," and as always, people just rave about the show. It really had such an impact on them, And that's, 10 years later, and this bloke still manages to feel the need to say something. So it definitely worked.
Well, yeah, and that's what I was alluding to. There's always, when you watch a movie or you watch something on television, you're like, who would be really good in this character? You can't do that with Band of Brothers. You can't look at somebody's performance and go, oh, who would make a really good Hoobler? I think, and you pull off, whatever person, you really don't have that opportunity. There's nobody that fits these roles better than the guys who made it 10 years ago, which is why it has lasted the test of time. Yeah, I think, a lot of that goes down to, the attention to detail, the casting, the various, Gary David, all the different casting directors, and the producer, and directors, but also, people like Dale Dye and what they did in terms of building a little group, basically. We talked to Freddie Joe Farnsworth the other day. From the cadre, and man, was he a hoot to talk to. Yeah, he's a genius. Now, did being in the Band of Brothers change the way you worked on or approached a movie after, especially after doing boot camp? Did you take away a lot of stuff from Band of Brothers and use it towards your acting career?
I don't think so, really. I just, I was kind of intrigued by the fact that, I tend to be, before that, I was probably a little bit more cynical of the living in the moment approach, and whereas I was rather surprised at how involved I got, mentally with the whole pretending to be a soldier thing. So yeah, I suppose in that sense, it probably made some difference in that sense. I wasn't sort of going home and thinking I was Hoobler, even with a grenade. But that I didn't nick, by the way. Right. But no, I don't think so. Not in that sense. But it definitely it opened my eyes to maybe giving in a little bit more to a character than maybe I had done before. But overall, I don't think I walked away in that sense different now.
When you were cast in this and when you were filming this, did you have any idea of the enormity of it, or it was going to be as big as it is?
No, not at all. I knew it was a big deal. Absolutely, I totally knew it was a big deal. Obviously, when you don't get interviewed, you don't get auditioned by Tom Hanks and the likes of, you don't do that without knowing that this is important. But I certainly didn't think that like I say, 10 years later, people would be shouting Hoobler at me across the road, So, or even that I'd be, that anyone would want to talk to me about it 10 years later. So, I don't think I was aware of that.
Well, and I think that's one of the greatest things about the project. After it was all said and done, every year that HBO replays it, or every single time HBO replays it, or by the time somebody gets to the age where their parents think they will enjoy it, you get a whole brand new generation of Band of Brothers lovers. Even on our chat room right now, we have ages from 18 to 60 that just
which is fantastic.
Yeah, they absolutely love the series, and and every year, like I said, you get a whole bunch of new followers. What shocks me a little bit about the whole thing is, did you realize that 90% of your followers every year, the brand new ones, are women
No, I didn't. I would have thought it'd be mostly men, actually. Yeah.
No, these women love the men in uniform and the characters you portray, and the fact that they can associate and feel, because I think this is one of the first war movies that it wasn't all gung-ho, blood and guts, take it to the top no matter what.
Yeah, fair. Yeah, absolutely.
It was emotionally charged from day one, and that fits into the demographic of the 18 to 60-year-old women, and they love how deep and how well the characters were written because of it. Yeah,
well, exactly. I mean, that was the point. It's Band of Brothers, isn't it? It's a bunch of friends, so that makes some kind of sense, I suppose. Yeah, I can see that.
How would you sum up the real men of Easy Company?
I would say indomitable and extraordinary, I think, they were very special people who, they were wild, crazy people who were there for the excitement and the action, fair enough, but their focus and their determination was very much driven by a sense of morality and what was right and what they planned to achieve for their country and for their brothers, and they were quite unique in their ability to deliver it. Really, that's how I'd sum them up, which is not a very summarized summary.
No, it's a very accurate one though, and I appreciate you for it. I think it's perfect.
Just true heroes. I mean, I met a bunch of them in Paris for the premiere. We were there for a week, as well as the people we met and the people that aren't even in the show, and drank with them till the early hours of the morning in a hotel in Paris, and they were just such interesting and fun and full of life people, that at the same time were ultimately extraordinarily brave and utterly determined. So hats off to them, I suppose.
Mm-hmm. Now, recently, you have hooked back up with a couple of your Band of Brothers cast members, with Dexter Fletcher.
That's right, yeah.
And Mark Warren in this new Wild Bill film. Is that right?
Yeah, I didn't actually connect with Mark. He was we were on filming on different days, different places, but yeah, Dexter definitely.
Now, this is his directorial debut.
Yeah, absolutely, and I have a feeling it's going to be a rather good one as well. From what I've seen of it so far, it's his first stab at directing, and it looks beautiful from what I've seen.
Did it seem weird taking direction from him, or did he basically let you go with what you knew?
Oh, he did a bit, yeah, but no, not at all. I mean, Dexter's he's one of life's gentlemen, so he's he's more than easy to work with. Absolutely.
Well, we're going to try and get Dexter back on and talk about his Wild Bill film. Do we have any idea when it's going to be released?
I don't. I would imagine it. Well, I imagine it's this summer rather than this winter. But I know that it's being worked on furiously at the moment.
Fantastic. What's on the horizon for Peter McCabe?
Not much at the moment. I'm having quite a quiet period. Let's put it that way. But I will let you know what comes next.
Very cool.
We'll keep our eye on you as well.
Absolutely. We do like watching all of the guys from the Band of Brothers as they continue to do great things. Even with like Peter Youngblood Hills, who's still on his walkabout. I think that's fantastic, and if he ever calls us back up, we can figure out where he's at.
What's he on? He's on his what?
His walkabout.
Walkabout.
He's still doing his spiritual quest.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You know what? I had no idea about that.
He actually played a very beautiful flute blessing for us while he was on. It was amazing. Peter, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us. You were a great guest, a fascinating interview.
Thanks for asking me. It's been a pleasure. And nice one. Take care, Nigel. Angela, take care. Yeah.
Thank you very much.